Welcome to How It Works, a video series from LawSites and LawNext in which you get to see hands-on demonstrations of legal tech products directly from their developers. I'm Bob Ambrogi. In today's episode, you're going to get a demonstration of Supio, an AI-driven platform developed specifically for personal injury law firms. Joining me to tell us all about it and show us how it works is Edward Kirk, Head of Partnerships at Supio. Ed, welcome to How It Works.
Thank you, Bob. Pleasure to be with you.
Well, before we get into the demonstration, why don't you tell us a little bit about Supio and what you do?
Absolutely. So Supio is the leading legal AI provider, and it understands everything about your case. It's the only legal AI powered by document intelligence, which is purpose-built to understand key personal injury practical documents like medical records and bills. So Supio's document intelligence works by converting fragmented records into a structured network of facts, injuries, providers, powering tools that deliver human-level accuracy at AI speed. And it works right across the case lifecycle, from intake to verdict. Supio acts as an AI legal team, a paralegal, nurse consultant, and attorney, identifying missing injuries, analyzing medical details, and refining legal arguments with tools that I'll show, like case signals and case economics. Supio uncovers hidden insights and transforms medical bill management, leading to up to 7 times higher settlements. So Supio isn't just software, it's your strategic partner, enhancing efficiency, accuracy, leading to superior case outcomes. And just to cap it off, this past week, we heard from one of our firms in Colorado, a lawyer called Todd Travis, and he said that Supio directly had a hand in helping him increase the settlement from $700K, which was the initial offer, to $3 million. That's what we are focused in for our firms, delivering higher settlements and speeding up the time it takes to get to that settlement.
I guess that's an impressive ROI from a personal injury standpoint. I understand you're going to demonstrate some aspects of it today, so you want to just jump on into it and show us how it works?
Absolutely. So I dived straight into Supio's Chronology here, and this is for our firms who are, these days, we're inundated with companies touting their AI tools. For our personal injury firms, the chronology is where it starts. This is the story of the case. And in this case, we've got Eli Strauss. He was in an accident where he was rear-ended coming out of a gas station, and he's got lots of prior injuries. So there's elements of aggravated injuries that we need to be mindful of and add a layer of complexity. So what you're looking at here is the output. The firm has uploaded the raw medical records, and Supio has translated those records into an actionable output, and in this case, the medical chronology. And it's highly filterable. So across the top, you've got your easy filters like a keyword search. You could filter by specific injury. We use the latest AI models to do that. We also can let them filter by the event type, by provider, facility. They can segment by date. So our firms, the paralegals and the attorneys, love that ability to slice and dice the chronology according to the situation they're in. For example, an attorney about to depose a physician could filter by that provider and then have that record set in front of them. And they could also export it, print it out as a PDF or a Word document. And these cards here expand. So it's not just a one-line summary, there's also a detailed summary of the extraction, and they can look directly at the source document in the same place. And that's a crucial element of this technology, the ability to verify easily.
What a time savings that is. I have had to do that in the past in my own work, and I know just how time consuming and arduous it can be to put together those kinds of things. So it looks great.
Exactly. I've been there too. At the beginning of my legal journey, I felt uniquely unqualified, straight out of law school, trying to analyze these medical records. And the exciting bit about technology today, technology like Supio, is that it is We're designing it for this task. As you say, pre-Supio firms would print out these records, try and organize them on their Office 4, deduplicate, try and understand handwriting, and then piece them back together, scan them back in. Supio's taken that menial heavy lift for our firms. Excellent. So we'll move over to case signals now so I can show you how Supio brings the insight to the surface for our firms. So here, what we are doing for our firms is not only organizing the records and turning it into a useful output in the chronology, but we're also showing them the things that they're looking for in the records. And what's the information we don't have that we need to follow up on before we can draft our demand letter? And what Supio does here is it shows them all of those uncoupled records and bills. And then what they can do is they can extract this into an Excel to follow up with the facility and get those records in. And obviously that's a fairly menial task for the individuals at the firm to be able to do, and it could be error prone as well. Supio's acting as that second pair of eyes to help ensure nothing gets missed. And firms that we work with have case managers that work with 100 or 200 cases. It gives them comfort to be able to have case signals giving them that insight right at the surface level. Also indicating aggravated injuries that add that sort of layer of complexity, treatment gaps that they can reach out to their client to say what's happened here between these gaps in treatment, so that rather than being caught on the back foot by defense, they have those answers ready. And that's what our firms tell us that Supio gives them, is that confidence that they know all aspects of their case. And finally, and that sort of segues straight into case injuries, here we're highlighting to them all the injuries that have been picked up by the AI, including potential undiagnosed injuries that could be an underlying TBI, traumatic brain injury, where the client has gone to a hospital, they've got maybe a broken arm, and they're focusing on the broken arm and ignoring the headache that actually needs to be diagnosed and treated. So it gives the firm the ability to go back to the client and say, hey, what you mentioned there, that's actually quite serious, and we need to get you treatment for that.
So Supio is identifying that in their record somewhere, there was a record that the patient went to hospital, mentioned headache, no follow-up with regard to the mention of the headache, and it's flagging that.
Absolutely. I heard this last week from one of our firms who said they had what one of their attorneys would term as low value, maybe even a bad case, something that they're not really focused on because it's not the sexier kind of complex case that has a lot of value in it. But what he was saying is that in one case, Supio picked up a bruising injury, which actually uncovered a hidden injury that helped them increase the settlement from 20,000 to 75. It's also helping their attorneys move cases that they might frame as a D tier or a C tier case in value up to a B or an A. And that's really the goal that these firms are aiming to do, move up the value of their cases for their clients. So now I'll quickly show a bit of our AI assistant, which is something that has become synonymous with Supio, as we were the first to introduce it as a chat experience for our firms. So Supio, we've been around for about 4 years. And when OpenAI and generative AI came to the fore, we immediately saw the value in enabling our firms to be able to chat against their case data. And here, with the chat experience open up, what you can do here is really anything. You're only limited by your imagination. But for our firms, what they'll come in and do here is ask something like this to help get their hands around the case. And this enables them to not only grab facts in seconds, but also to help refine their arguments, to understand whether they have contradictory narratives about their client wearing a seatbelt or around the injuries. And it gives them a way to refine them as the case moves forward, because as they progress the case, more records will come in. And what they can do is continue to workshop their narrative in Supio, while paralegals in the case can ensure that they have everything together nice and easily.
Does this chat extend beyond medical records into other documents in the case?
Absolutely. So that's the other thing that our attorneys love, is the ability to upload expert reports, deposition transcripts, and compare those documents against the medical record set, compare them against each other. Or even what we've heard is lawyers uploading prior transcripts of the experts they're working against, or prior expert reports that they've done in other cases, to see if their opinion has changed over time, depending on whose side they're on, as well as whether they're using templatized language. So it's just a rocket ship to their depot prep. They describe it as their time machine, and it allows them to go so much deeper and feel so much more confidence in their preparation, rather than having that moment where they wake up at 3 a.m. and think, have I checked that? And that confidence gap is something I hear so much from attorneys, that every person who's stood in a courtroom has had that feeling, what if I've missed something here? That nightmare that we all wish we could never face. So what I'm showing you now is what we call case economics. As I introduced Supio at the top, I mentioned how it understands everything about your case. And medical bills is perhaps one of the most complicated elements to understanding the full case value of a personal injury case, because you have to reconcile between the billed amount, what was adjusted, who paid what were the medical specials, and ultimately the balance. And the fear for a personal injury firm is that when they come to settle, they might have missed a medical bill, which then throws out that settlement and obviously makes it a settlement that is much worse for the client. And if the medical bill is perhaps more than the settlement, it's even worse for the law firm to try and convey that message to their client. So again, Supio is acting as that second pair of eyes. And if I just make one little click here, what I show is that Supio automatically extracts the individual line items from the bills to produce this ledger without any manual lift from the law firm, aside from giving us the records. To our knowledge, there's no other company out there that does this in this detailed fashion, where they can also export it into Excel and manipulate it from there. But ultimately, what the firm is looking for is that balance number and those medical specials number at the bottom. That's what they're focused on.
You referred to it as a second pair of eyes. Do you suggest that the attorneys need to check this against the actual documents, or is this pretty reliable?
It's reliable, but with all of this technology, with every sort of AI provider you're speaking to, we are delivering an output. The law firm's name is ultimately there at the end of the document. And what we would say here is that Supio is elevating the paralegals at the firm to bring to the table their experience, rather than being in the weeds of these documents and mountains of the documents. If we extrapolate not just this case, but the hundreds they're working on, rather than being in those weeds, they consider a higher level and compare where they had got to against what Supio has produced. And then come in here and they could simply edit this ledger to scratch out anything that might be unrelated, like a COVID shot, anything that's snuck in that they can just remove. And that's a much easier task than trying to produce this in an Excel format manually. I'll just navigate over to show what we can also do here is to keep track of liens for our firm. So here, Supio will pick up the liens that we picked up in the records and allow our firms not only to keep track, but also to check whether it is eligible to claim in the case by checking the diagnostic code against the accident injuries. And that's just a simple click here. And they can edit the table to remove anything that's not relevant. And finally, we piece this all together for our firms so that they see the entire picture on one page, and they can game out settlement sort of figures in one place, so that rather than being that lawyer writing things down on the back of a napkin and shooting from the hip, they can have their settlements out listed in this format. So they know exactly their numbers down pat. And when they're speaking to defense, their confidence is translating. The defense is hearing them speak about their numbers like they know them ingrained in their brain. And that confidence says to the defense attorney, I'm up against somebody who knows this case. And that's something that will also carry in the chronology, in the case signals, in the ability to use the AI assistant to check the defense's argument. If they're in a mediation, they might put down the defense's argument in Supio to check whether the defense's argument about reducing future care costs matches up with the report. And they can just put that in Supio. And we had a North Carolina attorney tell us that they did just that. Supio showed them the document. And whether it was a case that the defense was using creative license or just hadn't read it properly, Supio showed them that they decided not to read the second part of the report, and ultimately they settled for the max amount. So there's that sort of, again, it's that feeling that you know your case. So finally, Bob, I'll show you our drafting suite. And this drafting suite here is, as I mentioned, the bleeding edge of where this technology is moving. As we move forward in the next few months and the pace is breathtaking, what we'll see is so much more personalization for our firms individually within Supio. That's the really exciting bit, is being able to personalize by persona, by paralegal or attorney, but also to harness the knowledge around the firm's templates and enable firms to draft complex document in Supio within a minute. So I'll show you what that means, but it's also about giving them ability to respond to interrogatories in seconds as well, which, based on most conversations I have with attorneys, that is the bane of their existence. That's where a lot of the excitement is today. So I'll give you a couple of examples here. But for example, I'm going to choose an expert disclosure document. Now, it isn't, for example, a complex document to draft, but it is a long, arduous document to create. So I'm just going to click this button here, and Supio is going to generate the document.
And that blueprint that you're using there is a blueprint that the firm developed or that you've provided as a template as part of Supio?
So that's a firm level work product. So we get very close to our customers, and our customers direct our journey. Rather than be a technology company that is driven by the shiny thing that will get us more sales, we want to be driven by what our clients are telling us that's the thing that they want most. And I'll just click this so we can jump in here. And this was something that firms were really calling out for. Because as we scroll down, this expert disclosure document is a 40-page document at best. And what it is putting together is each of the experts, their names, qualifications, background, and what they are speaking to in this case. So as you can see, as we scroll down, it's a hefty document. And on the right-hand side here, we can highlight a section to get Supio to help us to continue to refine it. So I could say, make this section tighter. Just a fairly straightforward prompt. But you can come in here to use the chat. In another situation, you could ask Supio to help you to create a section about the impact of this accident on our client's life, providing specific examples in the documents about the activities that are diminished because of the accident. And Supio will go ahead and do that for us, and then we can preview it in the document and accept it and move on. And Supio will do this not only for an expert disclosure, but also for demand letters, and create this around the firm's template as well.
So it's pulling this information out of the experts' reports and CV and whatever else they have on as part of the case record?
Exactly. So what we're doing here, and I'll open up a demand letter for us just so we can take a peek at this. What it's including here is directly from the records that have been cleaned up by Supio's processing, is producing the facts and liabilities, introducing the images from the records, the ICD codes as well, all the treatment information, and then at the bottom, the damages as well. So again, another detailed document, but again, we'll be tailoring this according to the structure that the firm prefers.
Mm-hmm.
So one final thing, Bob, and I'll just show you the way that we can build responses to interrogatories, because I know this will be something that people will be excited to see. So in this example, what I'll do here is I'll just upload the request that we've received from the defense. So I'll upload that raw document, and what Supio will do is go to extract each of those questions. By extracting them one by one, we give Supio a bit of a lift, because then it can just focus on those individual questions to give a great answer. And so it's done that extraction for us, and we could just check that everything looks good and then confirm, and then it will go and generate our responses for us. Our firms can build in the objections that they want to add into how they respond to interrogatories. So here we had the response to the interrogatories, and we can move through the answers to see how it's done. And if a firm has the preference that it wants to write it from a different perspective, just to say, for example, here on May 28, 2019, the plaintiff was driving, they can easily make that change as well. But once they're happy, they can move through each of the responses. They can preview it in the document. So continue to work it up, send it to the client to review. And what we're finding with our firms is that they are greatly shortening the time it takes them to produce this document. And what they're then able to do is go to court and say, Judge, this takes us 7 days to do. Why should it take defense 60 days? And it's just really shortening that time on the velocity of the case and putting pressure on defense.
You don't want the defense using AI, though, do you?
The billion-dollar insurance industry, I'm sure, is beavering away to try and create something just as powerful. In the meantime, though, we want to give our firms the tools to ensure that they're really citing the best case for their clients.
Yeah. That all looks really good. Is there anything else you want to show us today?
That's everything from me.
That's great. I really appreciated that overview. And real quick, for people who want to see more of it for themselves or maybe get a more extended demo, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach us at supio.com. If they want to reach out to me, they can as well. Edit Supio, nice and easy. But we'll be delighted to give them a deeper dive on Supio.
All right. Thanks for your time today, and thanks for showing us all about Supio. And that does it for this episode of How It Works. You can find the full series at directory.lawnext.com under the Resources tab. We're also on YouTube. Just search for How It Works there. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for tuning in today.